welcome.
Family, Movies Brief here.
Today, I am going to explain an American fantasy drama film called Wendy. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie starts in Darling's Diner, owned by a middle-aged woman named Angela Darling. She has 3 kids, 2 twin sons, James and Douglas, and a younger daughter, Wendy. Their diner lies right by a railroad in the rural South and is always filled with people. It is a happy and lively place where everybody loves little Wendy. One day, a little guy named Thomas Marshall is in the diner enjoying a meal for his 7th birthday. His grandmother jokes that he will be a cleaner at the diner when he grows up. Thomas retaliates. He wants to be a pirate, but the seniors just laugh at him. Overwhelmed with emotions, he walks outside when no one is watching. Little Wendy, who is some years younger than Thomas, crawls towards the window and watches as he gets on a moving train. There seems to be another child on the train with him, whose face isn't clearly seen. Time passes, and Wendy gets older, but she never forgets what she saw that day. She becomes more imaginative with time, and often writes her own bedtime stories about adventures. At only 9 years old, she has a thirst for adventure, and is willing to take risks for a rush of adrenaline. As Wendy helps her mother and brothers at the diner, we see a notice on a board that says Thomas disappeared at the age of 7 and has never been found, along with another 13-year-old boy, indicating that children go missing frequently in the town. Wendy is calm and composed, in contrast to her brothers, who are always dancing, singing, and making noise. The 4 of them are a happy family nonetheless. One night, on the boys' demand, their mother tells them a bedtime story about her life. She claims that she was wild when she was younger and had dreams and aspirations that people would make fun of her for. She once hitchhiked to California and stole cars on her way. Wendy thinks it's cool that her mom's a criminal and asks her what her dreams are now. Angela replies that she wants to take care of her children. She adds that as people get older and things change, their dreams also change. This makes Wendy sad because she never wants to give up her dream of going on several adventures, and she doesn't want to get old either. The following day, after school, the kids go to a canal to fish. James and Douglas are busy when Wendy runs towards the railway tracks. She sees a train and chases behind it, hoping to board it as Thomas did years ago, but she falls along the way and misses it. While returning home, she remembers her brother's words, "Your life will go by and nothing will ever happen." At night, everyone is asleep, but Wendy keeps herself busy by making up stories about stars. Suddenly, a mysterious red light passes through the window, and the sound of a train approaching is heard. She looks outside the window and sees a boy playing and running on top of a moving train. It is the same little boy named Peter who was with Thomas when he disappeared. Wendy wakes her brothers up and climbs out of the window to get a closer look. The boys follow behind her, but cannot stop her before she jumps on the train. They too get on board, following their sister. Wendy spreads her arms, feeling free for the first time. Then, they are approached by a laughing Peter. The guys ask him what their stop is, but Peter replies that there are no stops, because this is an adventure. In the morning, Peter tells Wendy that the world has no end. It goes on and on forever, past the restaurants and the houses. Peter is a flat earther. When they reach above a river, Peter asks them to line up on the edge of the train. The kids do it without asking any questions, and yell in fear when they are pushed into the river by him. Peter jumps behind them and introduces them to a kid on a boat. All of them get on the boat and sail to the sea, eventually reaching a volcanic tropical island. A fish-like creature from the sea makes a noise that Peter claims is the mother welcoming them. Seeing the magical island, Wendy remembers the voice in her head that used to ask her to sneak into the night. She figures that the noise has been coming from the island all along. An active volcano is shooting out smoke in the air, indicating the magical charge of the place. Peter runs into the woods with his friend, making the siblings follow them. On their way, they are terrorized by smoke coming out of the ground. A while later, they meet a guy their age, singing a melody to the big volcano. Wendy joins him out of nowhere. Peter approaches them and says that their singing was hopeless. He meditates and performs some hand gestures of his own, triggering the volcano. The others run away in fear and excitement. Suddenly, a little boy comes running their way, who Wendy recognizes as Thomas. Although he was older than her when he ran away, he doesn't seem to have aged a day. Upon inquiry, Thomas claims that he is a Blackbeard and runs away. At night, the other kids play and laugh around the confused Darling siblings. Eventually, they join the others and start singing the same melody from earlier. When they wake up the next morning, Peter is looking at the sea, claiming that he is talking to the mother. Later, he and Wendy jump into a pit on the ground and reach a canal. Peter takes her into the sea and shows her the mother, who turns out to be the island's spirit in the form of a massive fish that spreads a golden glow wherever it goes. Peter explains that when the first child laughed for the first time, the mother rose up to the surface from the center of the earth to watch over them. She preserves their childhood so they can go on any adventure and do whatever they want for as long as they like. However, the magic only works if you maintain faith in the mother. If someone stops believing in her, they will age at an exponential rate and turn old. For the next few days, life is like a movie for the children. They play, dance, sing and laugh from day to night without any care. Douglas and James completely forget about their mother back home, but Wendy thinks to herself that she is just extending her visit and will return home once she is done having fun. One day, Wendy wakes up to see an elderly man wandering close by. When she greets him, he runs off into a barren side of the island. The children explain his name is Buzzo, a former member of their group who lost faith in Mother when he lost his best friend, and so aged into an old man. After that, they find a capsized boat called the Manana in the sea. The Darling siblings swim to the boat to inspect it. Douglas is skeptical about swimming into the compartments of the ship, but he agrees when James calls him a coward. The three dive into the compartment, but only James and Wendy emerge from the other side. Worried for Douglas, they dive back inside, but are unable to find him. The other kids also help them look, but are unsuccessful. Eventually, they drag their brother and sister out of the water, assuring them that Douglas must be fine. Because he was his twin, this affects James the most. When he wakes up the next day, his hand has wrinkled and turned old. Wendy realizes that James has lost faith in the mother and asks her to keep it a secret from the others. However, Peter soon finds out about it. James tries to snatch Peter's sword to cut off his old arm in order to stop the aging process. Peter volunteers to do it himself and cut his arm. Wendy runs to her brother, who falls to the ground in pain. She angrily asks everyone to get away from them and takes James with her in search of an actual adult. They come across Buzzo, who agrees to help them. He puts James on a donkey and takes the two to the old people's quarter. It is the place where all the children who have turned into old people live. Everyone there is catching and killing fishes, which confuses Wendy. She inquires what they are doing, only to find out that eating the mother will give old people their childhood back, so they are trying to catch her. James's arm is now tied in a cloth and has stopped bleeding. To rest, he and Wendy go to an abandoned diner with the other old people. Silence prevails in the room until Wendy asks everyone to bring their childhood spirits back, even if they are old. She dances, urging the others to do the same. Eventually, all of them get together and dance, except for James, who is still very depressed. He runs out in frustration as Wendy follows him. James goes to the fishing zone and gets the nets ready. The other old people see this and decide to make him their leader because he knows how to fish. James comes out with another plan to capture the mother. He suggests they abduct the children, which will make the mother come to them herself. Wendy retaliates against the idea, but the others like it. They start to prepare to kidnap the kids, while Wendy runs back to the woods to alert them. But the adults get there before her and kidnap all the children. The only one that could hide and save himself is Peter. Wendy joins him, and the two watch the adults repair the boat Manana and board the kids onto it. Wendy notices a man with only one arm bending a hook. It turns out that the man is James, who has grown into an adult. After they sail away with the boat, Peter urges Wendy to come with him and save their friends. They jump into the ocean and end up in the canal again. There, Peter tells Wendy about his family back home. Wendy wanders off to the other side of the canal to find Douglas, alive and well. The two reunite and set off to look for their friends on a rowboat. Seeing no one on the deck, the three of them climb up to the boat and try to untie the children, but the adults catch them and bring them to their leader, James. He has now turned fully old and has a hook in place of his missing arm. James and Douglas are both surprised to see each other. James is mad at him for staying young while he turned old, while Douglas refuses to believe James is his brother. Suddenly, the sound of the mother is heard. The adults all prepare to hunt her while the kids beg them to stop. They free themselves and jump into the water to get the mother out of the net, but are too late as James strikes her with a harpoon and injures her gravely. The golden glow from the mother's body disperses and drops to the bottom of the ocean. James manages to get a piece of flesh from the mother's body, but at last refuses to eat it. Peter cries in vain about losing the mother, and Wendy comforts him by hugging him. He is worried that he will now get old and die, now even making the seniors feel bad for the kid. Wendy assures all of them that their story is great, and the bigger they get, the more stories they can form. They can get married and have children who will have stories of their own, hence they should not be disheartened. She then gets them all to start singing the melody again. As their singing grows louder, Peter becomes more inspired, and the volcano erupts once more. Wendy and Douglas decide it is time for them to go home. Knowing that he cannot go home, James says his last goodbye to his twin. He then changes his name to Captain Hook and stays to play with Peter as his new enemy, thereby allowing him to live out the rest of his days with the spirit of a child. In the ending monologue, Wendy says that she, Douglas, and the other children have returned home to their own families. They have many adventures as they grow older. They dance and sing and have fun, even as adults. Many years later, Wendy is now a mother with her own daughter. She tells the story of Peter and the island to her as a bedtime story. While Wendy sleeps, her daughter hops on the train with Peter. Wendy runs after, but she cannot catch up to them. She then watches them get away with a smile on her face, knowing that her daughter is in good hands and is ready for an adventure of her own. The moral of the story is that getting kidnapped builds character. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you.